Welcome to DJ Manager video training presented by Scott Faver. You can contact us at scott@thepartyfavors.com, toll free anywhere in the continental US and Canada, 866-569-1793. Join us and other fellow DJ Manager users on Facebook. And a friendly reminder that DJ Manager is designed for PCs using Windows XP through Windows 7, and you must have a working copy of the software Word version 1995 through 2008 in order to take advantage of all of DJ Manager's special features. Today we are discussing importing mailing lists. This is continued from part 7, this being part 8. Let's get started. Once you have all of your data set and ready to go, you're ready to return to DJ Manager and do the import. Click on Contacts, Import Mailing Lists, and you will find a list of previously imported names and addresses. You may have some information here, or you may simply have the none. In this case, you can do an insert if you want to add a new list, or if you're going to add more from an existing list, simply click Insert or Change as needed. Name the list whatever you'd like. If this happens to be the third list from Wet Alert, you might want to change that. The import date, you can fix that up as well. The purge date refers to actually removing names from this list that were added to DJ Manager that did not have an event that confirmed or booked that it was a moneymaker. So the result is some people like to remove names from their list after people say no, and that's what the purge date is for. I keep everyone's name in my list from now until eternity. The limit of names in DJ Manager is something like 1 billion to 2 billion. So I think there's plenty of room. But if you're interested in removing clutter, by all means schedule a purge date. If you want to say something about this particular import, say whatever you want right here. And if it comes from a specific advertising source, in this case it's Wet Alert, you can add that information as well. After you've got this all figured out, click Import, and your next box will pop up. Earlier we discussed the style that your data is in, and selecting the style here that matches the style of your data will have to be the same. So if you use the Wet Alert format, then Wet Alert is what you want to select here. Then select the import file name, click on the little box, and navigate to where it was that you hid your data. And as I had instructed, the CSV file is what you want to call your data. And so if you search for that, you can see that we have several here. Here's one now ready to go. If you are returning to this import, in other words, there may have been 3,000 names on the import, and you are now coming back to finish the import process because you left it earlier, you didn't import all 1,000 at the same time, you can say start at record number 5 or start at record number 500 or whatever the case may be. If this is your first time to start things up, then start at record 0. And of course, skip the first record. Skipping the first record is the same as saying that first column in your Excel spreadsheet was the field names, wedding date, first name, last name, street address, and that data does not need to be imported into DJ Manager as a record, so we're going to say skip the first record. Okay? The default contact title, that's the person information that you can leave it blank if you'd like, or that's your discretion. Prepend zeros for the zip code, I highly recommend that. So if you have some funky zip code address, it'll fix that for you. Convert to title case. This one is really powerful. If you happen to get data and some of it is uppercase and some of it's lowercase, that can be very confusing, especially when you start sending form letters and form emails automated, and everything is properly beautiful in your email and the person's name is all in capital letters, and then it looks really odd. So correcting or converting the title case means that the first letter in each word is capitalized and every letter after that is lowercase. So anything that was capitalized in your data is now fixed, with the exception of course the state, which remains completely capped because that's an all cap field. so you don't have to worry about that either. Now, the more boxes that you check here, the longer the import process is going to take. If you're importing 10, 20 names, check all these fields that you like, and then you can really fine-tune your data. But when you have a list of 100 or more names, the more boxes that you check, the longer the process is going to take. We start here with this first box which says interactive import. That means that each time a name from your list is added to your DJ Manager, the import process is going to ask you questions based on the boxes that you've checked here below. Questions like, do you want to check the address on the internet? Do you want to check for availability on that date? Do you want to check to make sure that the city matches the zip code? Those things are going to take a long time for the data to be imported into DJ Manager. And if you're really meticulous about making sure that your data is pristine and precise and correct, go ahead and do that. But be warned that it's going to take time for you to do that, as opposed to saying, no, I don't want an interactive, I just want you to import all these names right now. Again, as I mentioned in the previous lesson, import 4 or 5 names from your list first, confirm that all of the information is going into the proper field, and then go back and get the full list and import it. So that also will save you some time as well. But in this particular case, we're going to leave the interactive option on, and we're not going to check the city, and we're not going to check the availability, but we might want to do some other interactive things like setting skip blank addresses. Okay, so if you're in the mail process, not email, but regular snail mail process, and you're sending out send out cards or brochures or things or postcards, then you probably don't want to import people who do not have a mailing address, or you want to skip bad zip codes. Again, that's a time taker because it's going to verify the zip code with the city. Skip no email. If you're strictly just doing email and you're not doing snail mail, then you can say anybody that's on this list that does not have an email address, don't import them. And of course, if you want to skip no valid email address, so for example, if you have a .org or a www. something as opposed to an @ sign, it'll look for things of that nature. If you're doing telemarketing and phoning, you may want to say skip anybody that doesn't have a phone, and it'll take care of that for you as well. You may also want to say that the phone number has to have at least 7 digits. So if you get something that only has 4 or 5 digits, it won't import, or it won't include the phone number. Now, events only after 90 days after today. This refers to the event date. I have a really fun email that talks about they're getting married when. And if you have not received it, drop me an email at scott@thepartyfavors.com, and I'll be happy to share this with you. But it talks about when you get a bridal list from a bridal show, or even from an online service such as Wed Alert or Respond.com or All Time Favorites, the wedding date is not always accurate. Brides are planning their wedding and they're getting married someday, but they may not know exactly when they're getting married, but because the online software or because the card that they filled out at the bridal show says, tell me what your wedding date is, they simply put in whatever they want. So the bottom line here is, yes, you can say only events after 90 days, thinking that if the wedding date is correct, then they most likely have a DJ service or the service that you provide at least 90 days out. You can certainly change that to 30 days, 10 days, or if you don't care at all, you can simply say 0 and 0 it out, and it'll include all of the events for you. Okay. Send mail, send email. If you know that this is specifically a send email only list and not a send mail list, you can opt to uncheck this option if you'd like, and that will help you out as well. I'm going to assume that the default event type is wedding, and if it happens to be that they're interested in an anniversary, then you can simply change that when you speak to them and they say, oh, it's not a wedding, it's an anniversary. And then you can change that when you get to it, when you're doing your follow-ups. After you've answered all of these questions, click Start the Import, and that will start the process for you, and it will, depending on the questions that you've answered here, import all of the names for you automatically. If you've done everything properly, especially importing a few names first to make sure that your data is in the proper order, and then returning to import the rest of the data, you'll be good to go, and you'll have names in your list automatically. And that is how you do the importing of mailing lists for DJ Manager.